Hello, class. You remember me, Patrick John McKinley, your friendly neighborhood bar grievance defense attorney, defending my fellow lawyers and members of the Florida Bar and District of Columbia Bar against bar grievances and ethics complaints, and in my spare time, serving as your adjunct professor of law, teaching professional responsibility at your law school. As I mentioned in our last get together, in my last lecture, your midterm exam is on Monday. So the point of this particular video is to help you know what it is that will be covered on your midterm exam. The point of this video is to help you understand the scope of coverage of your midterm exam. As my syllabus promised, the midterm covers everything that was mentioned in a lecture or in a required reading or in a required video prior to the exam. So what does that mean? Exactly what will be covered? That's what I'm going to go over today in today's video. But first, a disclaimer. Today's discussion by its nature is incomplete because it's shorter and less detailed than your textbook, than the model rules, than the comments to the model rules, and certainly less detailed than my lectures. So today's discussion is just one small part of your studies. You remain responsible for learning everything we discussed in prior lectures, everything we talked about in prior classes, everything you read about in the required readings up until the day of the midterm exam, which is a mere 5 days away. It's on Monday. And that's true even if it's not covered in detail today. You need much more than today's discussion. Today's discussion is not a substitute for studying and working hard. So please do that. Now, we spent 6 hours on the theme of public service and integrity to the profession. What rules of the model rules of professional responsibility did we discuss in those 6 hours of lectures under that theme? Well, of course, we drew from chapter 6 and we drew from chapter 8. Chapter 6 talked about public service, and there was great emphasis on rules 6.1 and 6.2. Reread them and reread the comments to the model rules. Likewise, we studied chapter 8. We talked about rule 8.4. That was just the beginning of rule 8.4. It came up again and again and again. So read it, read the comments. Likewise, 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, read those rules, read the comments. Don't forget, we talked about the judiciary. We discussed at a bare minimum Model Code of Judicial Conduct Rule 2.15, and at a bare minimum, Florida Code of Judicial Conduct Canon 3D. Be familiar with those. The next 6 hours of our lectures talked about legal services and independence of the profession. What rules did we encounter there? Well, we encountered a large part of chapter 5. There was a quick reference to rules 5.1 and 2. Then we moved on and covered in great detail rule 5.3, rule 5.4, and rule 5.5 of the model rules of professional conduct. Reread them as well as the official comments to those rules. Don't forget that we also covered chapter 7. Reread rule 7.1 and the official comments to that rule. The next 6 hours of our class lectures talked about competent, diligent representation. That was the theme. And under that theme, we drew from at least 3 different sources, at least 3 different chapters in the model rules of professional responsibility. We went back to chapter 1. We covered in great detail rule 1.1, 1.3, 1.4. And although we didn't exhaust all of rule 1.8 in those particular 6 hours, we certainly covered most of rule 1.8, including 1.8 sub H. Reread all 4 rules and the comments. Don't forget chapter 3. There we talked about specifically rule 3.8. Reread the rule, reread the comment. Do the same with the rules from chapter 5 that we covered. Those were in particular rules 5.1 and 5.2. The next 6 hours of lectures that we had together were under the theme officer of the court, and that was a lot more than just trust accounts and trust account rules. Certainly there was a great emphasis on trust accounts and trust account rules, both under the ABA model rules of professional conduct and the rules regulating the Florida bar. So don't neglect those topics, but also don't forget that we also covered under this theme, we went back to chapter 1. Great emphasis was put on rule 1.1. Rule 1.11 and Rule 1.15. There was some mention of Rule 1.1, but the great emphasis was Rule 1.11 and Rule 1.15. Reread those and the official comments. Don't forget, we also talked about you can't beat up your opposing counsel with frivolous claims. You certainly can't misuse litigation as a tactic to wear down your opposing counsel. We talked about, at least in passing, rules such as Federal Rule of Civil Procedure Rule 11, and in passing, the Florida equivalent, such as Florida Statute Chapter 57.105. We talked about those rules in passing by noting that we can't misuse our powers as a litigator in order to try to drum up the cost of litigation or to wear down an opposing counsel. That's the beginning of our discussion of rules such as Rule 11. There's more to come. But don't forget, we also covered under Officer of the Court Rule 3.5, and we returned to Rule 8.4 under the model rules. We read all those rules and the official comments to them. We spent more than 2.5 hours lecturing about advertising and solicitation. And in doing so, we covered all of Chapter 7, Rule 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4, and 7.5 of the Model Rules of Professional Conduct. Reread those rules and the official commentary. And of course, since it's so broad and so overlapping, we couldn't help but return to Model Rule 8.4. It came up yet again. So don't forget, not only did we emphasize those things, but we also began our review of the class by taking a look at that booklet called The Weekend MPRE, written by Professor Christensen. We spent almost 2 hours in our review of pages 33 to 78. 33 to 78 gave us a broad overview of more than just the model rules that I cited to you earlier in this particular video. So it is fair game for our midterm to touch upon those things that we touched upon in the overall overview of the model rules of professional conduct that you find on pages 33 through 78 of Professor Christensen's book. You remember I spent almost 2 hours telling you, underline this, highlight that, understand this, remember that, and giving you fleshed out in detail various hypothetical scenarios so that you could understand some of these things, such as duties of loyalty. We talked about when we must keep the confidences and secrets of our clients. I had specific examples for you, such as insurance coverage, where the insured might be paying your bill, but your client, where the insurance company might be paying your bill, but your client is the insured. One of the hypotheticals I had was you stumbled across information that might mean there's a coverage defense. That would mean your own client is no longer covered. Do you share that information with the payor, who's not your client, the insurance company, who with your client's consent is paying your client's bill? Go back, remember, look at scenarios such as that. Understand the duties of confidentiality and the other broad topics that we touched upon in our almost 2-hour review of pages 33 through 78 of Professor Christensen's text that were not necessarily the focus of later lectures. Also, don't forget the videos you watch there. Not only the videos of me, but the videos of Professor Christensen. And please don't forget the quizzes that I had you take. You remember you took the quiz on the computer. It told you immediately whether you'd chosen the right answer. If you chose the wrong answer, it told you why, and it asked you to choose again. And eventually you chose the right answer, and it told you why. Did you know you could retake those quizzes? I think reviewing those quizzes, retaking those quizzes, rereading the explanation of to why those were the correct answers in those quizzes would be an excellent and highly recommended task for you to complete before taking my midterm exam. Trust me when I tell you, you want to review those quizzes. Now, your midterm exam is a mere 5 days away, or even sooner, depending on when you're watching this video, because your midterm exam is happening on Monday, June 22nd, 2020 at 6 p.m. Due to COVID-19 and the coronavirus, unfortunately, they won't let us physically be on campus to take your exam. So your exam has to be done through distance learning. We don't, unfortunately, have a choice under your law schools and your university's rules. Now, as I mentioned to all of you during our last lecture, the midterm will be available via the internet through a piece of software called Canvas. You need to be familiar with Canvas because the midterm is only available by logging into Canvas and will be available only on Monday, June 22nd, 2020, starting at 6 p.m. You won't be able to access this any sooner, and ending at 9 p.m. You will be locked out at and after 9 p.m. And it's only available through Canvas. The midterm consists of 40 multiple choice questions. As you know, that's what's in the syllabus. That's what we discussed in my prior lectures. This is not, I repeat, not an open book exam. Canvas has some technological ways of making sure you don't visit other websites while you're using Canvas. And in addition to that, remember that your law school's honor code applies. This is a professional responsibility class. Begin to assume the responsibilities of our profession. Be honest. Have integrity. This is an open book exam. Do not open a book. Integrity isn't about how you behave while others are watching. Integrity is also about how you behave when you think no one else is watching. So please, whether you think I'm watching or not while you take the Canvas exam, remember the honor code, remember your own personal integrity, and remember that this is not an open book exam. It is a closed book exam. It counts as 40% of your final grade, just as the syllabus explains. Please reference the syllabus again for more details. I will provide you, or I should say Canvas will provide you with 180 minutes on the Canvas site to finish the midterm exam, and you won't be able to get more. Please note that the Canvas site is different from the Casebook Plus site where you've been taking your weekly practice quizzes and where you've been watching your Casebook Plus videos recorded by West Academic and used by me in part to supplement my lectures in between when you and I get together. Also, Canvas is different from the YouTube site where you've been watching videos of me giving the Wednesday lectures. Also, Canvas is different from the Google Meet site, which is our substitute for WebEx or our substitute for Zoom. It's our way of getting together through webcam. And that Google Meet site is what we use on Mondays and is not where you're going to find Canvas. You won't find Canvas on Google Meet. Won't find it on YouTube. Won't find it on Casebook Plus. You've got to go to your law school's LMS, Learning Management System, and that's where you'll be able to use your login credentials to use Canvas. Now is the time to acquaint yourself with our Canvas website. If you've not done so already, please, as soon as this video ends, please do the following. When this video ends, go to our Canvas site and take the 2-question ungraded practice exam located there. This is helpful because it gives you experience using Canvas and helps you identify any technical problems on your end. Please do it now. Of course, this ungraded practice exam is not the midterm exam. Taking this ungraded practice exam does not count as having taken the midterm exam. If you take only this ungraded practice exam and do not take the midterm exam on Monday starting at 6 p.m., then you receive a failing grade of F on the midterm exam. So this ungraded practice exam, it's just for practice. You still have to take the real midterm. Please take the exam. Trust me when I say, no matter how poorly you think you're going to do on the exam, you'll get an even worse grade if you fail to take it. So please take it. And as always, please contact me in the usual way if you have any questions or concerns about your midterm exam or anything else during the semester. I want to thank you for watching this video. I hope it proved helpful to you. I extend to you my best wishes on Monday's midterm exam. My wife Bernadette and I, while you're busy taking the exam, we are going to keep each and every one of you in our prayers for your success on this midterm exam and in every other endeavor that you might choose to pursue in this lifetime. May God continue to bless all of us. And until I see you again, good luck.